That pushed me so far to learning about Catholicism because I was like, there's gotta be a way to have unity and to have truth. Hey guys, it's Lizzie. This video is 10 factors in my life that helped me become Catholic, and you might recognize some of these in yourself or in one of your friends or family members who may want to convert in the future. I still am shocked that I was able to become Catholic. If you're new to my channel, I converted in 2018. Officially announced that I am converting into Catholicism. I did not want to convert. I fought so hard to get out of this intellectually. I did not want to be Catholic, but it's objectively true, so that's why so many people convert into Catholicism. To make this fun, I'm going to edit in short clips from past videos showing my thinking gradually changing in real time. Number one factor that helped me become Catholic, surprisingly, is how much I hated Catholicism. Because I hated Catholic theology so much. The opposite of love is not hatred, it's indifference and apathy. The benefit of that is I had very concrete reasons for hating their history and theology. Everything Catholics believe about sex, I disagree with. And I also don't like how Catholicism tries to define everything. Hatred means that someone is very passionate about their beliefs and cares about truth. And once I read more and learned that all of that was lies, misconceptions, and misrepresentations, I was like, oh, the Catholicism I hated isn't actual Catholicism. Number two, I always thought it was okay to think independently of my Protestant church. As a kid, I critically listened and disagreed with parts of the sermon, Bible classes, Sunday school, youth group. I always said, if I started my own church, this is what we would believe. This is my theological belief on this and this and this. Like, I decided for myself what my theology was, and it was really fun. Like, it was like dreaming up, creating my personal theology. I don't know if it was my personality or my family, but I just never thought I had to accept everything my church was teaching. The Protestant denomination I grew up in, Church of Christ, is unique in that there isn't a headquarters, and because it's decentralized, there's not this idea of you have to accept all of this detailed theology. Number three, debate. I was on my school's debate team for all of high school, and my event LD Lincoln Douglas debate was philosophical debate. And this is my life. Debate was my life in high school, and I would spend 30-40 hours prepping for each tournament. We had to argue pro and con.
For each topic, you'll prepare two cases, one affirmative and one negative. You need to address your opponent's value structure, burdens, observations, and each of their points.
At the tournaments, we had like 4 to 6 different rounds, so you're debating different people each time with affirmative or negative. There were so many topics where I began researching, agreeing with one side, and then upon researching and reading and analyzing everything, I switched to the other side. I think it's so much fun to argue positions completely opposite of what I feel. I became self-aware that my intuitions are wrong on so many things, and also became very comfortable with intellectual confrontation. Number four, I went to a Christian university that had many denominations. So it technically was a Church of Christ college, which is the Protestant denomination I grew up in, but it had a ton of Christians from all sorts of denominations, but just so many different types of Protestantism. For the first time in my life, I was having Bible studies and prayer groups and all these religious conversations with people of all sorts of Protestant denominations. So now we're walking into Elkin's Auditorium. Mostly I remember this because of church though. We met for church on campus. It's amazing. A lot of people don't think this through because if you grow up in one church your entire life, all of your Bible study, prayers, sermons, like youth group, campus ministry, all of that is with the people of your denomination. If I'd gone to a state school or another non-religious private school, my Christian community would have been the Church of Christ group on campus. But because it was this like interdenominational vibe and everyone was kind of involved in like campus ministry together, yes, you know that other denominations exist, but when you're like in a community with all these different types of interpretations of the Bible for 4 years, you really start to think through, wow, this is relativist. Number 5, I was a philosophy major in college in an analytical philosophy department.
I am always changing my views on things because I'm learning so much in college, and some people tease me about that. But I'm a philosophy major, and our major is all about finding truth and changing what you believe to correspond with what new truth you found.
One of my favorite places is the Sandbar, and this is where I had philosophy club every single week. Sometimes we would stay past the hour and a half, up to 2.5 hours, just discussing philosophy and thought experiments. It was so fun. Philosophy changed me, shaped who I am, and I was always changing my philosophical views on things every semester because of my classes.
One of the most foundational things is a concept called being charitable, which means if you disagree with someone, you want to take their argument and present it in an even better light. You literally want to improve your opponent's argument, because if you're wrong, you want to know that you're wrong so you can change your position to correspond with truth.
And so I think that it's really a trust exercise with God, that you kind of are just like, okay, I might completely change what I believe, but I trust you and you're gonna be with me through everything. And I think it's beautiful to doubt your faith and to not really know where you're going and to be out of control. I think that's really, really healthy for you. Favorite place on campus, AC 286. A lot of my favorite philosophy and religion classes.
I got so comfortable with being wrong, and I got to the point where I was never offended if someone disagreed with me and was arguing with me and trying to change me. Love that. So then right after college, a ton of my YouTube subscribers were trying to convert me into Catholicism or Orthodox Christianity. So many people were sending me all of this research, and I think for a lot of people that would have pushed them away, but because of philosophy, it drew me in because I wanted to know if I was wrong.
I thought I would read a poem for you guys. This is something I wrote May 22nd, 2017, and so many of them have been here, made this a journey. They're surrounding me, telling me what to read, what to believe, how to leave. So many people have emailed me, messaged me, left comments, told me what to read, what to believe, how to leave. Like, that's literally, that stanza is about you guys as my subscribers. I love you guys so much.
Number 6, living overseas and seeing flaws in American culture. My parents were missionaries in Russia for 5 years, so my family lived there when I was younger. Living outside of the States permanently changed and shaped the way my parents view the country and just our entire family dynamic. It's easier to be critical of your own country when you have that outside perspective. Also, when I was in college, I spent every summer in Thailand doing missions work. It was complete immersion from individualistic to collectivism. Also, some of my best friends in college were international students, and so they were very honest with me about their disagreements and issues with US culture.
What is one thing I wish you could change?
Challenging authority, yeah.
I feel like it's a very cultural thing, because like
It is very American, yeah.
Yeah, like I was reading this book, Outliers. It talks about how people who like really has a line between superiority and inferiority, it's like Asian countries. So yeah, where I'm from, it's like we never really question authority. We just like accept it. Because,
She grew up
like,
in Singapore, but she's from China.
American culture, it's anti-authority, individualistic, negative freedom, utilitarianism, hedonistic, materialism, very anti-Catholic ideologies.
To hate authority and to question and to not like structure, and it's a cultural value. I just think that we all need to be honest with ourselves about where that is coming from, because I know for me it's because I'm American. We think that our government used to be so religious, but our founding fathers, so many of them were deists. Have you guys heard of the Jefferson Bible? He literally went through the Bible and cut out any of the miracles. We need to be careful to not get our culture confused with our Christianity. Individualism and nationalism and materialism were not principles that Jesus taught, yet they are seeping into our churches. It's kind of in our religious Protestant DNA to just like ditch the church and go find another church, because our culture is so consumerist and capitalistic, and it's all about what we're getting out of something. And once we stop getting something out of a marriage or getting something out of going to church, we leave that and we cut that out of our lives and we go after things that we're getting something from. It's a brand new concept to separate religion and politics and philosophy. It all used to be the same thing.
American culture is majority Protestant. And so it shaped so much of our thinking to make it very difficult to become Catholic. Of course, not all of these are from Protestantism. It has seeped into Protestantism and the way people understand Christianity. And so understanding that we have all of these underlying ideologies shaping our understanding of God and the church and the Bible, being able to take a step back and being like, this isn't Christianity, this is infiltration into Christianity. So many of the things I just mentioned, I saw in myself, and having this outside US perspective, I was like, wow, I don't actually like that about myself. Number 7, going through a depression episode in college. So if you're new to my channel, I have bipolar disorder type 1. My bipolar episode started coming out freshman year of college.
Hey guys, it's Lizzie. So people are always telling me that I'm so happy.
It's just this fog over your mind and this exhaustion. A lot of times I just wished I could just like fall asleep and sleep all the time and not even be awake.
It broke me down emotionally in such a horrible way. If you're not bipolar, you won't understand this, but it just felt like my identity had been murdered within my diagnosis.
During my depression, all the parts of the ship fell apart all at once. Swim around trying to grab any piece of driftwood from my ship, but I felt like I had no sense of self. And then when I go on my medications, it completely changes my personality. And so my question is, what is my original self? Do I have a sense of self? Is there a soul?
In February 2018, when I made my Why I'm Becoming Catholic video and my story went around in the Catholic media world, I felt so confused and unworthy because all of these people were saying, Lizzie's so humble, she's so brave, she's intellectual, she cares about truth. And I knew myself and my pride, and I was like, no.
They applaud me, say it's not my fault, but I feel guilty and I'm crying because I went years without asking these questions.
In some ways, that characterization is true, but I know myself, and the only reason I was able to be humble is because I went through this horrific deep depression episode for over a year. My depression definitely did not make me stronger. It made me a lot weaker, but it made me humble because I had no choice but to have humility at that point. But it was a lot more than depression just crushing me. I did not feel any comfort or relief in my evangelical theology at the time.
That God wasn't there for me, and it's like God isn't there in so many evil parts of the world where it's like he could be there but he chooses not to. I've asked God, please, I just want to move past this. I just want us to be close. I've told God that I forgive him because I feel like I need to forgive God because I feel so hurt. This emotional wound, this emotional block, and it's gonna be here I don't know how long.
It felt like God had completely abandoned me. I felt so wounded in my relationship with God. It was so hard to trust him, so hard to pray. I was very close to becoming agnostic or atheist at that time.
And so the summer of 2016, I just went through a really intense testing time where I didn't want to be a Christian anymore, and I was about to become agnostic or atheist. And this doesn't necessarily have to do only with mental illness, but just suffering in the world in general. Because there's a lot going on during that time. It was the Orlando shooting. Christina Grimmie was murdered. I just read a memoir about North Korea and the oppression there. I just read this thousands of word essay by the girl who was raped in the Stanford University trial around that time. And just all of that together, all of that pain and suffering, in Protestant theology, there isn't a place for it.
And once I looked at all my arguments for the existence of God and all of these super strong arguments for Christianity, I was kind of at this place where I was like, if Christianity is true, it doesn't make sense that there's no comfort, no explanation, no theology regarding deep, deep suffering. And I'm not at all saying no Protestant churches have a theology like that, but the Protestant communities I was a part of did not have a robust theology of suffering at all. And Catholicism does. Number 7, believing in objective truth and not being a relativist. This is huge. Most millennials and Gen Z I know are self-proclaimed relativists.
Relativism contradicts itself because in saying that there is relativism, you are introducing an absolutist opinion. And so there's a logical fallacy with relativism in itself.
There are several types of relativism, so they either believe that there are not objective truths about religion, or they think that there are, but we just can't access them. Either way, they're super comfortable with multiple contradictory versions of Christianity. I hate relativism so much. So for me, these contradictions, it can't work. When it comes to countless moral issues, who Jesus was, how to worship God, I am not comfortable with all these contradictions, but so many people are because they're relativists.
But for me, I cannot not know how I feel about an issue.
In 2015, 2016, I was dealing with a lot of cognitive dissonance about relativism. I'm going to play a clip from 2015 where my objectivity in Christianity was deteriorating.
And Christianity does not just bring you all of the answers. God's given us, each of us, incredible minds, and I think we should use them to try to find truth and to try to think through things, but we shouldn't ever be convinced that we know a lot of anything. And so I think that we're not supposed to go to the Bible and find all the answers and be right about things. I think the purpose of the Bible is supposed to change our hearts and open our minds more than giving us answers.
I saw how Protestantism was so divided, thousands of different ways of interpreting the Bible.
So this is my thinking around the winter, spring of 2016, 2017. I went to so many different churches and I remember just thinking, I don't agree with any church on their doctrine. It's just completely relativistic. I don't even care what church I go to. It doesn't matter. There's no way to know what's truth. Protestantism is just a mess. That was kind of my idea. Like Christianity was kind of a mess. There's no way to discern which is the true church because there's so many. I mean, how could anyone tell?
And so I was actually heartbroken and so saddened right before I started researching Catholicism because it just clicked so strongly. I remember exactly where I was when I realized this, that I should just randomly pick a Protestant denomination to be part of because it literally doesn't matter. How could anyone be confident that they found the right form of Christianity when there are thousands and thousands of different churches, different ways of interpreting the Bible? God is everything to me. Truth is everything to me. And so being in this heartbroken, saddened place, realizing we can't know truth about God, that pushed me so far to learning about Catholicism because I was like, there's gotta be a way to have unity and to have truth. Number 9, seeing traditional Christian sexual ethics falling apart.
While 90% of Americans have sex before marriage, 83% also identify as Christian. That's a major disconnect.
I have made so many YouTube videos of the beauty of how sex is a part of marriage, and that is a conviction I had my entire life growing up. I always thought it was very clear in the Bible.
I feel like there's so many influences coming in from school or from the movies we're watching, the TV shows, music, all telling us that purity isn't important, that it doesn't matter.
I have not had sex before. I'm not going to have sex until I get married. That's something that I know is a part of Christianity.
Genesis 2:28 is really clear where sex is for marriage. And in Mark 10, this concept is repeated, reiterated.
I was never ever confused on the issue. End of college and after college, so many of my friends who I grew up with in church and other friends in college who grew up Christian like I did, who agreed that sex is in marriage, they were all completely changing their mind on the issue. I was having conversations with and they were kind of like fighting me over it. And I was so confused and even felt crazy. And I'm like, why am I the only person who still thinks this? What's going on? And so learning that Catholicism teaches that the reason contraception is wrong is because it separates the procreative aspect of sex from the unitive. And so I was like, oh, all of my friends are actually being extremely logical because in introducing birth control into sex in marriage, we're basically saying that sex only needs to be unitive for it to be moral in Christianity. That's it. We should not be blaming millennials, Gen Z, who are turning their backs on traditional Christian sexual ethics. The problem is opening up the theology of marriage to include contraception and teach this entirely new definition of what sex is. Of everything in Catholicism, the two hardest things for Catholic converts to understand and accept are marriage theology and sexual ethics. But for me, the sexual ethics, of course, on an emotional level, it was really, really hard to get past, but it clicked so easily for me. Number 10, my personality is extremely black and white. This part of me is frustrating to everyone in my life because I do not like ambiguities, but it's perfect for Catholicism. I had to completely change the way I perceive the world to emotionally love and vibe with Catholicism. But what did make the connections intellectually is the black and white thinking. For a lot of things, something is either true or heretical, moral or evil, Orthodox Church Father or heretic. Although that's not so black and white, because there are some people who were like totally Orthodox and then they became a heretic at the very end of their life. So even that is not black and white. Caveat, Catholicism does have so much space intellectually to think through theology. There have been so many theologians through the years who are discussing and developing and understanding, but the most beautiful, amazing part of Catholicism is this claim of having all of these objective truths about God, how to live in the world, what the church looks like. The fact that we have all these beautiful objective truths that we submit to and accept and believe, that's the best thing ever. As Catholics, we believe that the Holy Spirit is guiding our church in truth. And so it's a beautiful thing that we get to accept and trust the theology. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you like the style of adding little clips from old videos. I've been downloading my entire YouTube channel just in case it ever gets deleted. And so I've been watching through older videos and creating so many new video ideas, reacting to old videos and stuff. So that's why I have all the footage. I love you guys so much and I will see you in my next video. Bye.